Have you ever met someone who seemed absolutely perfect? They were friendly, they complimented you, they laughed at your jokes, they made you feel like you could trust them, and then, slowly, something felt off. Maybe they only treated you well when they needed something. Maybe they talked differently about you when you weren't around. Or maybe you eventually realized something uncomfortable. You never really knew who they were. But here's the thing. Fake people don't always look fake. Sometimes they're the most charming person in the room. So how do you actually recognize them? Not through body language myths, not through some magical psychological trick, but by understanding patterns. Because one strange behavior means almost nothing. Repeated behavior tells a story. First, let's define what we're talking about. Being fake doesn't simply mean someone is quiet, awkward, or doesn't like you. People are complicated. Someone can be nervous and avoid eye contact. Someone can change their opinion. Someone can have different personalities in different situations. None of that automatically makes them fake. The real warning sign is a repeated gap between what someone claims to value and how they consistently behave. In other words, don't listen only to what someone says about themselves. Watch what they repeatedly choose, and that's where things get interesting. Watch how someone treats different people, not just their friends. Watch how they treat the waiter, a younger student, someone they don't need anything from, someone who can't give them status. And then compare that behavior to how they act around people they want to impress. Everyone behaves slightly differently depending on the situation. That's normal. The problem is when someone's entire personality changes depending on what they can gain. They're incredibly respectful around powerful people, but disrespectful toward everyone else. They're incredibly friendly when someone can help them, and completely cold when they can't. That doesn't automatically prove they're a bad person, but it tells you something important. Their behavior may be driven more by incentives than by principles. Of the biggest ones, someone tells you, I'll always be there for you, but whenever you actually need them, it disappears. Someone says, I hate, and then spends half their day talking about everyone behind their back. Someone constantly says, I'm all. But the moment there's an opportunity to gain those, their load suddenly disappears. Now everybody contradicts themselves somehow. That's called being human. The red flag isn't one kind. Those words appeal to say one thing, and their actions appeal to say another. Believe the pattern. Not because people can never, but because behavior is usually a better predictor of behavior than can simply be hacked for you. You tell them, I had something I've been working on. And instead of that's all, they immediately respond with, yeah, but I did something even better. You tell them about a problem. Suddenly their problem is bigger. You do something. Suddenly they need to prove they're better. This can come from insecurity. It can come from a need for validation. And it doesn't automatically mean someone. Someone consistently needs to lower your evens to protect their own ego. Because genuine friendship doesn't require one person to. And then you stop giving someone what they usually get from you. Maybe it's favor, maybe it's kindness. Maybe you're simply no longer available whenever they need you. What? Do they still talk to you? Do they still respect you? Do they still care about what's happening in your life? Or does the relationship suddenly disappear? Because sometimes people aren't attached to you, they're attached to what they're. Discover the difference when you stop providing it. Some people don't just want to be good. They want to look good. There's a difference. They might constantly talk about how kind they are, how low they are, how honest they are, how much they care about people. But watch what happens when nobody's. Because if someone's morality disappears the moment there are no social consequences, their reputation may be more important to them than theirs. It's to one of the old philosophical questions. Who are you when nobody's weighing? That's a much better question than what do you. But here's where you need to be careful, because there's a dangerous side to learning about psychology. You can start seeing manipulation everywhere. Someone doesn't make eye contact. They're lying. Someone crosses their arms. They're hiding something. Someone doesn't reply quickly. They don't respect me. That's not psychology. That's confirmation bias. Once you've decided someone is fake, your brain starts collecting evidence that supports your conclusion while ignoring evidence that doesn't. So instead of asking, how do I prove this person is fake? Ask, what evidence would prove me wrong? That's a much stronger way to think. Don't become paranoid, become observant. There's an ancient idea in philosophy that character isn't created by one dramatic decision. It's created through repeated choices. And that gives us a powerful way to judge character. Don't obsess over someone's image. Watch their patterns. Watch how they behave when they're angry. Watch how they behave when they have power. Watch how they behave when they have nothing to gain. Watch what happens when their interests conflict with their values, because that's when character becomes visible. Anyone can perform kindness when kindness is rewarded. The harder question is, what do they choose when doing the right thing costs them something? So if you're trying to figure out whether someone is genuine, don't interrogate them. Don't play psychological games. Don't manipulate them to test them. Just observe. Give people time. Look for consistency. Look at how they treat people who can't benefit them. Compare their words with their actions. And most importantly, look for patterns instead of isolated moments. Because one bad day doesn't define someone. One mistake doesn't define someone. One awkward conversation doesn't define someone. But repeated behavior, that starts telling you something. And maybe the darkest lesson isn't learning how to identify fake people. Maybe it's realizing that you can never completely know another person. People change, people hide things, people surprise you. So don't walk through life assuming everyone is secretly against you. That's not wisdom, that's paranoia. Real awareness is simpler. Trust slowly, observe carefully, judge patterns, not moments, and let people's actions introduce you to who they really are. Because eventually, people don't have to tell you who they are. Their choices will do it for them.